What is up, everyone? Welcome, welcome. I have a whole bunch of questions. It might not all be answered, but I'm hoping if if Andrey still likes me after this, that we can do this more often, so we can ask all the questions that I couldn't ask. That doesn't mean that I have some soft questions, because I have most of the things that annoy me, I have questions for. So if you're new to the channel, you might not know what that means, but if you know me a little bit, you know what I'm talking about. All right, Andrey, we are live now, and they should be able to hear you. Yeah, if you want to do like a short intro or something of what you are. I have your title on screen, but maybe you want to fill us in.
Sure. So my name is Andrey Biletskiy. I'm creative director for World of Tanks PC for the last, 4 years. Started roughly 2016 and up to this moment. Prior to that, I was working on some other wargaming games. And before that, for Warner Brothers, and before that for Ubisoft in Montreal in Canada. That's about me. I don't know.
That's a long list already, yeah. I didn't actually know about the Ubisoft thing. That's interesting. Yeah.
You didn't? So I worked on Assassin's Creed 3 and 4.
Okay.
Black Flag, the first one, was the last Assassin's Creed game for me.
Nice. Well, I love Black Flag, so hey.
was doing naval part with a colleague of mine. We were principal designers on that.
Okay, that's cool. So yeah, you've been working with games for a long time then, basically.
Almost 20 years now.
And then 4 years of World of Tanks, but you were with wargaming a bit longer than that, right?
Yeah, about 6 years in total.
Right. Let's just hop right into it, because we have limited time, even though it's probably going to be roughly 2 hours. But let's just get right into it, and I think we're going to start with a hotly debated topic for the last year or so, because I think they're about a year old now in the game, which is, of course, the wheeled vehicles and the supposed rebalance that is coming. And obviously we would like to hear what the rebalance is going to entail, or just as much. Can you go more into depth about the wheeled tanks rebalance?
Reasons probably quite obvious for many of you, because they are a little bit off the board. It's at the moment it is the most effective, almost in all domains, light tank in the game.
And that's mostly the tier 10, or are you talking about the whole tech tree?
No, it's mostly the tier 10. The whole tech tree is significantly better overall in popularity and in effectiveness as well. But for tier 10, it's top one right now. It has two very close competitors, however. It is top one, and we now have enough evidence that it isn't overperforming. We do have several hypothesis what we are going to do with that. So the main one right now is to limit its effectiveness of withstanding tracking damage. So you probably know very well that it's extremely difficult to stop a wheeled vehicle. A while ago it was basically a design direction. So we were discussing how to make a tank that will be very fragile, really easy to destroy with average damage potential, but at the same time effective as an active scout. And the answer, a design answer back to then, it was like, you cannot stop me. And it was one of the key ideas many years ago. So at the moment we start to believe that maybe we went too far with this you cannot stop me motto. And our main hypothesis is to tone that aspect down.
So you're mainly thinking about nerfing the effect of getting a wheel destroyed.
Basically. This is, as I said, it's hypothesis number one. So there is also hypothesis number 2 and number 3 and number whatever, because we believe in the principle that you cannot pick from one choice. Like really, if you have only one option, there is no choice behind that. So we're trying to build up more ideas on what we can do, and then chose in between those several ideas. So by accident, probably if you follow what happened with the latest patch on the release date, and there was a wheeled vehicles bug that we were fixing. So it's one of the hypotheses that slipped through the fingers.
Oh, right. That was actually one of the things you were trying to maybe do as a balancing thing.
Yes, to toy with.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to ever went to production, but it happened.
Right.
But this is the point, right? To build up several different solutions to try toy with them internally and see how well or how bad in this case they do perform. But the principal idea at the moment is we would like to increase the influence of a damaged wheel on the overall vehicle mobility. So it will lose mobility much quicker. It will be significantly easier to target the moment at least one wheel is being damaged. And as it's pretty squishy, it immediately will lose a lot of its effectiveness. So because right now it just basically it's unnoticeable.
And yeah, right now it's unnoticeable. But so the other things that, because you said there's multiple layers, right? So one of the layers is slowing them down with the wheels.
Yes, it's lowering the maneuverability.
Yeah. And what are some of the other ones?
The damage potential and ability to shoot, especially on the move. And I probably stop here because I do not want to share crazy ideas and then send somebody quoting me on that and saying, well, the guys are supposed to do this with real vehicles. They're definitely crazy.
Yeah, maybe not the answers, but I think you can probably state what else do you think is wrong with them without actually giving insight on how to fix it. Because I think firepower and on the move is valid points. I think the HE for especially tier 10 is kind of crazy.
Well, ability to let's put it not like a firepower, right? Because it is very weird to compare. I know their firepower with Jagdpanzer E100 firepower. It's sort of incomparable values, but the ability to deal damage and at the same time remain mobile, and being defended by the fact that they are mobile and they're rather tiny targets is making them of the balancing limit we would like them to keep.
Yeah.
So this is whatever we will do, it will one way or another will try to address the specific triangle of issues. So they either need to lose ability to deal damage while they're moving, or they should be significantly easier to
take out,
to slow down, yes, and take out because they are squishy already, or they should lose in maneuverability the moment they're trying to manipulate with speeds, and that's very often happens when the vehicle is trying to scout and fire at the same time.
Yeah.
So this is basically three ideas that are that do not sound weird. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, but you said that or at least personally, I feel like the tier 6, 7, and 8 are fairly decent to take out because they're not that fast. But I think another real big thing about wheeled vehicles is the fact that the up until, I think, even including the tier 9, they cannot get to that magical 445 view range, right? Whereas the tier 10 can. And you said that you implemented them in a way that you want them to actively scout, that they need to be closer to the enemy than the regular scout who can sit in the bush or whatever, right? So isn't it a little bit weird that the tier 10 can actually get to that view range?
Well, you probably, or I believe you know, and probably many of our viewers do know as well, that the view range is not physically capped by 440.
But it's like
grow far behind that point, and given up a stationary vehicle that is staying and kind of catching one who's getting in, especially if he has any sort of cover, right? Vegetation, for example, that is helping him to stay invisible for longer, to catch that distance. So, the trick here is that a stationary, like a normal tracked light tank, can have 520, 530 view range.
Yeah. But it's also camo versus view range, right? Because camo negates some of the view range. So, so
it's a pretty you see, it's a pretty complicated mathematical model we are talking about here. So the speed with which server actually takes tests on who sees whom versus the speed of the vehicle versus a range that is used to determine can I see or can I not versus the stealth rating of a vehicle that is being spotted. So it's things like that. I believe, to be honest, I believe that view range in tier 10 is all right at the moment, because I'm kind of not a big fan of touching lots of subjects at the same time. What I'm trying to say, but when you are doing changes in one particular area, and something goes wrong, you know what changes exactly caused an issue, and you can kind of backtrack or do next steps.
Yeah, you don't want to nerf 3 things because then you don't know what broke
so
it.
If we will touch several subjects at the same time, well, it is just making the probability that we will do something bad higher.
Yeah, no, I get that, but basically, so what you're saying is that you're either looking at like the sort of the firepower in a way, or but the main one is that you're looking at is the wheels currently.
Mobility, and that's why we're looking into the wheels. It also will affect its not only affect vehicle ability to move this firepower across the map, but also it will affect its ability to scout and get away.
Right. Yeah.
So the moment it will introduce higher risk of getting somewhere to take a look, let's put it this way, right? And it also will change the way how people play. It supposedly should become significantly less aggressive because the danger will be higher. And then that view range could mean something completely different than it is meaning right now.
Yeah, no, I get it. But say that, hypothetically, you nerfed the mobility in the way you're thinking about, where they are easier to kind of handicap and shoot because they're slower. Because right now the speed is also almost as defensive as the wheels are, right? Like it's just as crazy almost.
It's not that crazy if you will look at the speed of 100 LT. It's not that.
Well, the tier 10 is
further away. Yes.
Yeah. Like I said, I think the tier 10 is mostly the pain point, and I wonder if you're going to nerf the wheels. I don't know if you're going to affect the lower tiers too much as well. Maybe. But I get
a lot of agility or flexibility on how this will go, because we do have lots of data on each vehicle right now, so we can look into each vehicle and think about how it will work. How does this change affect a 4-wheeled variant versus 6-wheeled variant versus variants with the retractable wheels and so on and so forth. So we have a freedom there to pick our changes.
So, but to summarize, you're basically are mostly focused on the tier 10 and are trying to do some rebalance about it.
Not about it, around it. This will be correct basically for every branch. So we almost every time starts from the very top, because affecting it and then scaling it down is significantly easier than scaling up, purely mechanically. So for us, we are thinking about 10 and then kind of trying to project these changes backwards towards the beginning of the branch, if it is applicable, of course.
It's hard to say when these changes will happen, but like this year at least, or like is it sooner or later than people might think? Because a lot of people are worried that we're gonna be stuck with this for the rest of the year or whatever. But it's hard to give a hard date. I get that, but like
yes, absolutely. I have this story. I really love telling it from time to time in different events like this one about Havok physics that was promised, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in 2012, many years before it
and it took way longer.
Company. Yes, and I had a pleasure, pleasure of explaining US players in 2016 why Havok physics is not in the game still.
Yeah, because it's always dangerous to say in a specific date, because it will just get you into trouble.
Like it's
is it high in the priority?
It is quite high in the priority. Yeah. After the moment we decided to step back with New Balance,
right?
Because the initial idea a while ago was like, we are doing a completely New Balance, so let's avoid cutting cat's tail piece by piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, let's do one large sweep.
Yeah. Because it was some significant changes that you were thinking about doing. We can talk about that in a bit as well.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. You didn't want to nerf it sooner, because normally it might have been faster, but because of the fact that you wanted to do a bigger rehaul,
that happened. Yeah, that affected it too. But basically, what I'm saying, the moment we said, okay, so we are stepping back with that, the significant resources, like significant amount of people who were working on that, they got freed, and they now switched to some other tasks that are concerning vehicles, or touching vehicles. So this is in progress. And it means that, or I have a firm belief that it will happen this year and rather sooner than later.
Yeah, it's high priority, basically.
It's quite high priority for the Rebalancing team.
And because you said because it basically, so the rebalance got delayed because of the whole game rebalance, basically. I do have another question with wheels vehicles because people are gonna want to ask this every time. Is if you because are you waiting on these balances before you do more wheels vehicles from perhaps other nations, or like Germans have like a Puma and whatnot and stuff like that?
Well, you know, when we are picking what wheels we are add into the game, we are at least for now we are trying to concentrate on the vehicles that we can create a complete branch up to tier 10. So.
Right.
Out of the scope we were researching on wheeled vehicles in wheeled vehicles domain, there is only one branch that we can think of now. It's British medium wheeled vehicles,
right?
And they are supposed to be significantly different, obviously, from light mobile scouting French vehicles.
Oh, they're gonna. It's more like mediums or something, like a medium wheels vehicle.
Yes, but they are not in the roadmap for 2020. So
okay.
And they're not in the roadmap for 2021 either because it's not created yet. So will they end up there? I have no idea. And we are starting to work on the roadmap about now. So May is a very good moment when, or a very good approximation when we start to work for next year roadmap.
Right.
And we will finish somewhere September, October, something like that. So, but at that point of time, I will know the answer, but not this year for sure. That I can guarantee.
Yeah, and like you said, they're going to be more like medium wheeled vehicles or something like that.
They are like by function. I mean, like historically, they are. They are much more like tanks.
So that also opens the way to like wheeled TDs or whatever somewhere down the line.
No,
or not
because of physics. Because real world physics.
Yeah, okay. So the gun is too big for the wheels. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It is very hard to put a gun
half tracks. Half tracks, Andre. We need half tracks with 88.
No, I'm not sure. Without infantry, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But that's cool to hear.
We do not have plans to add infantry anytime soon.
Yeah. But that's kind of cool to hear about the UK medium wheels, basically.
We did a significant research before we picked a line that we introduced it first, and it was based on both what we believed the game needed, because a while back, again, if you recall, there was a tendency for light tank players to play more and more like medium tanks. So they, instead of being kind of aggressive scouts, mobile scouts, they were passive scouts and damage dealers, flankers. And it's fine. I mean, it's a good way to play light tanks. No one can forbid that.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, the amount of vehicles that could and are successfully playing mobile scout roles was decreasing. So it was our criteria number one. Can the thing help us with the specific issue?
Yeah.
And the second one was, can it build up for a full line? And So out of what we found to be good enough for a full line, or at least half of a line, right? There were Brits and EBRs. So we pick EBRs first because they matched the criteria better.
Yeah, so with the EBRs, you wanted to create an actual active scouts, but actually kind of funny that they're now also kind of more damage dealers as well.
Well, you know, it's a game meta, right?
Yeah.
People like to do to deal damage. People like to brag about their damage done, like my average or even YouTube videos will be named like that. Oh my God, he did 10,000 or 12,000 damage on this vehicle.
Right.
So this is a matter of the game. So obviously they are. At the same time, the vehicle itself, by design, it's built so it is extremely uncomfortable if it is stationary. It's hard to start moving.
Yeah. But
you need.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that, like, basically because you wanted scouts to be a little bit less damage dealing, but you effectively created one that still does a lot of damage, plus the rework.
They do.
Yeah. So,
but at least in that particular field, they're pretty much comparable with few others. So it's not that crazy. They're much than any other tank, than any other light tank, right? They have better assist damage, but on the damage field, they're not that crazy.
Right. Well, I think it's actually a good segue to talk about like patch-to-patch balance, because especially probably before your time, there was a lot more, or at least it felt this way, because I've been playing 8 years out of 10, where there was more like patch-to-patch balance, right? So there was almost, well, I wouldn't say always, but there was literally more patch-to-patch balance, so there was more like ups and downs in terms of like balancing things. And now, for example, with the wheeled vehicles, you said that it took longer because of the bigger rebalance, basically. But ideally, like, what would be the timeline for you guys to get from like releasing a tank to rebalancing it, buffing it, or nerfing it? But like, some people definitely will say that it takes way too long. But what is for you guys? What's like a good timeline? You guys,
it is actually taking too long, but there is a reason why. So for us, we believe it is roughly 6 months, roughly, yeah. Yes. Why? Sometimes it could happen faster. There were moments in history when we were doing like lightning fast rebalancing of something, like sometimes even on common tests, right? But generally speaking, we try to stick to the 6 months period of time, because there is a very specific reason for that. That reason is called early adopters. So generally, when we ship a new branch, majority of players cannot immediately afford to switch their focus onto that branch, even if they really want it, because they do not have enough free experience, because they are busy with finishing something else, because they do not want to pay gold for transferring elite experience into free experience. They just might not have enough credits, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of reasons why people might postpone a little bit the moment when they start to progress through a new line. At the same time, we have a cohort of players who are really wealthy in game terms, so they can have a lot and lots of experience. They can have enough gold from whatever global map or something.
Yeah.
They can pay. Also a reason.
Yeah, there's people that get tier 10s on release day. Yeah.
Yes, they might. And coincidentally, these players are very often very skilled.
Right.
Because they're very engaged into the game. They play a lot. They spend a lot of time. They train, basically, and get themselves better very often. So this early adopters cohort, statistically, is very different from the average player in the game. So we are talking about guys with 65+% win rate, with very high average damage.
Yeah, let's say the Unicums get it first, and almost on launch day, basically, is what you're saying.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
So on launch week for sure.
Yeah.
So, and these guys, they also enjoy a very specific advantage, because nobody else, the vehicle is just appeared, and nobody else, masses of players, do not have a good clue on how to deal with those specific vehicles.
Yeah.
So even if there is a good way to fight it, they do not know. They need to learn it, or somebody need to tell them, and then it should spread. And this takes time. So at the very, very beginning, let's say first months, any data that these vehicles produce is crazy, because we have best players fighting on unknown vehicles, and their numbers go off the board, off the limit, very quickly. Then, of course, again, I'm talking about normal situation. If we will ship a very bad tank, it's gonna not.
Yeah, that will also show up.
That crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it still will be distorted in the data. Then, over roughly next 2 months, a little bit less skilled audience will kind of start to move into that branch, and data start to stabilize. And in 6 months, a majority of audience who wants this vehicle. I'm not saying everyone, right?
No, but everybody who wants the line, most of those people that want the line will have it.
Start to get to the end of it. So they will play 8s, 9s, some of them will play 10s. And this is the moment where we can actually look at everything and build a good picture that will be close to reality. Let's put it this way. Before that, we theoretically can move the timeline, shorten it by 1 month. it will slightly increase the grade of error in our conclusions. Probably most often, it will be fine. But over the 10 years, we had few cases when we were doing something like that, then regretting it a lot, and then fixing it again.
So what were? Can you name some of the cases?
Yeah, mouse.
Mouse DPM. Yeah. Armor and DPM. Yeah.
Yes, T110 E5. We glued its hatch and then unglued it back.
Yeah. I actually have a question then, because like, okay, so unless you want to go in, so basically you're saying 6 months because you need the whole player base of people that want to play it to need their data.
As objective view on the problem as possible.
Yeah, because the first week is Unicum, so you need the whole spectrum of players to play it before you have effective data.
And also, guys, we are humans as well, right? So somebody is saying, no, that's okay. I mean, I'm playing that. It's not imbalanced. It's a good tank, really, but it's not imbalanced. And arguing with that person inside a team also means that we need to kind of show off data. And if there is this protective argument saying, no, just look, can you show this guys
you need
by the win rate?
Yeah, you need objective stats to back up your argument to nerf something.
Inside as well.
Yeah, because, inside your own team at Wargaming, basically. If someone says it's not overpowered, someone says it does, but you need the data to back it up.
Absolutely, because otherwise we just can pick randomly. 1 week it's gonna be Circon, and he will tell us what to fix. Another week, roll the dice.
Yeah, you should listen to that Circon guy. I heard he's pretty cool. You should listen just to him. That'd be perfect. But I already know what the next question is going to be for most of the community. If your perfect, let's say near perfect timeline would be roughly 6 months from release to rebalance, right? Either up or down in the rebalance. A lot of people will automatically point towards Tiger 2s and like a whole hoax of tech-free tanks that have issues for probably years now, right? So
yeah, that is correct as well. But it's always, it's always a question of what not to do, sort of. When we are planning what we are doing, we are right now trying to plan not patch to patch. We tried that a while back, and it's bad from production perspective, from what we can deliver. So we need to plan long term. When we're planning long term, there are different things that we want to do as we wish to do ourselves, and there are things that we know that we have to do. And we kind of trying to balance these things out back and forth, like deciding what we are not doing this year. So every roadmap is this story of what we will cut, because we cannot do obviously everything.
Yeah, but you can see why, for example, the Swedish heavies were rebalanced not that long ago. I'm not sure exactly when, right?
Yeah, not ago at all. Probably half a year or something like that.
Yeah, but you can see how the community responds to that a bit weirdly if, for example, the Chinese mediums and TDs are left in the dust for even longer than the Swedish heavies. Even though I think the Swedish heavy rebalance was a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think a free shots I think it was a pretty good rebalance, but you can see how the community would respond to that, thinking okay, that's cool that you rebalanced it and it's better, but those tanks are maybe 1 or 2 years old, whereas my WSAT 120 at tier 9 has been sitting in the dust for forever, right?
Forever, yeah. It also very often it depends on how much in the dust those vehicles are sitting. So if we do not see that they are popular, we might postpone dual alterations up to the point when they will become very unpopular. Then we kind of decide to give it another life, right? So it's pretty complicated from our point of view, and it's very painful process to cut things and say, no, we are not going to do that. No, we are not going to do that.
Yeah.
So every time we need to find this for ourselves again, to find this criteria and say, this is what we are going to do. And this is what will be positive from all perspectives, including company business interests, of course. Right?
And you said earlier that I'm gonna harpen back to this probably a couple times, but the great rebalance of the entire game that you want to do in one swell swoop is what delayed the EBR nerfs, let's say, right?
It delayed a lot of stuff. It's basically
that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. So, is that rework now just off the table, and you can work more towards fixing the EBR now than fixing, I don't know, a specific other line like the Chinese mediums. Let's just say hypothetically, right? Is that more? Is it more on the
Chinese
table
mediums
now?
are on the list. Yes, they are on the list.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even have to be specifically them, but I'm just saying that basically that the great rebalance is kind of off the table now, and you're looking more towards fixing like a tech tree, more like
it's a little bit back to R&D stage rather than pre-production stage. Basically saying for us, the great rebalance was kind of the super ultimate answer. Like, yes, we do have lots of problematic vehicles here or there. Let's try to fix everything in one big swoop. And we had a reason to believe that the whole idea behind changing the logic of how special shells work and how the HP is being progressing through tiers can help us a lot and also make the game a little bit better overall. So that is enormous effort. It is touching basically all the vehicles.
Yeah.
Give or take 900 vehicles right now. So and that was a flag for us. Like, yes, we will do that. We really want to do that in 2020. We will test this with players. That's
what you did in the beginning. Yeah.
Yes.
But that thing is a bit more off the table now, and more individual tech tree rebalance is more on the table now, like such as the EBR or whatever comes after that.
There are different tables. Let's put it this way. There are production tables. So this thing is off production table. It never went to production.
No, it was always a super test or whatever. Right?
Yeah. So imagine it this way: we have a concept table, a pre-production table, and production table. So when something goes to production, it means that we are very positive that this is a good thing to do, or we believe it is a good thing to do, and we put like a serious effort to make it stable, technically nicely executed, and stuff like that. Everything that goes onto production table usually ends up live. And there is a pre-production table where we prepare into that last assault. All right, so there is a special people, special jobs to investigate. The game is really complex from a technical perspective. Like, to investigate if we are going to do that or this, how it will influence whatever physics, maps, metagame, web services, payment, wallets, like lots of stuff, like Wikipedia even. And there is a concept table where designers, me inclusively, are toying with stuff like kids. So to move from table to table, you kind of need to pass a guard in the form of product director and myself as well. So I'm a part of the guard, and that guard asks for proofs.
Yeah, for data.
So for data, for feedbacks of audience, for whatever user experience, lab testing, and stuff like that. So big rebalance never went off a concept table.
Right. Yeah, so I get it. But it's still on the old table.
Yes. It's still on the concept table.
Yeah, I get it.
We just pulled back lots of effort, lots of people, switched them to more kind of tactical local tasks. We now trying to challenge ourselves on a high level strategy of that decision. And I'm waiting so far patiently when my crew will came up with me and say, like, look, this is our new vision.
Right.
So it's in line with a grand vision, but we are going to do that this way. And when this will happen, and if basically I would like it, like, to be honest, then we will do a next attack. So it's not that it's not frozen or something, but it's back onto the whiteboard stage.
Yeah, I get it.
Before they will prove that it worth investing of time and effort into this new idea.
In that rebalance, right? RT was also a hot topic on this, right? And the HE. Is that a separate topic, or is that part of that great rebalance, or are we still going to see is the RT rebalance, or there's been experimenting probably still going on, right? Like, so what is that the same stage or?
It's linked, very tightly linked things. So the main idea behind Great Rebalance sounds like this. When I'm fighting, I have several tools in my disposal for different situations, and I need to pick up a right tool for the right situation. So if I want to deal damage and I'm in a good position and my enemy is in a bad position, for example, I'm flanking somebody or I'm aiming at his rear, I have a shell that will do the most damage. So I can pick that. If I can predict the situation, I can pick the right shell and do the most damage. If this is a hull down enemy or higher tier enemy or something like that, I can have a higher penetration shell. It will do less damage, but I will maximize my chances to deal any damage.
So the current thoughts on RTV balance is still pretty much in ammo changes, basically. Not like a greater rework. Like I always said, like just make them TDs, but that's for easy for me to say. But
RT has a very specific purpose in the game. Let me finish the first thought, and then,
sure.
I'll switch to RT. So, and there is a third tool that is saying whatever damage I will do, even if it's gonna be 1 damage point, I need to do damage right now, whatever it costs. So basically, HE. My base is being capped. Do I have a tool to do something? Do I have a tool to stop somebody from capping or things like that? Do I have an enemy that is so well positioned itself that there is no other way to deal damage to him at all, and at least I can do something? So this is three tools, right?
Yeah.
And if we're applying this logic to tanks and tank destroyers and light tank, like heavies, mediums, tank destroyers, light tanks, then probably it is the right thing to do is to apply the same logic onto the RT as well. Like I have 3 tools. The question is, RT is vastly different from everybody else.
Yes.
Because it serves a very specific purpose. And I'm not sure how much your audience is familiar with that, because this is some sort of repeating question that I'm used to answer over the years. But what RT is doing, it is solving 2 very specific gameplay issues, potential issues.
Yeah, potential issues, okay.
Potential issues, right? So the first one, I'll call it a big mob. So what big mob means is maximum amount of vehicles in one tight formation.
Yeah, like a lemming train going down one flank.
For example.
Yeah.
Yes. Lemming train, or like, this Roman legion cohort.
Yeah. Just like 10 people going one flank, basically.
Or
all together.
So if 15, you're a really old player, if you remember old clan stuff, then there was this tendency to have 2 lines of tanks, and once the first line was taking enough damage, they were retreating, another line was getting forward. So basically it was a question of either who will maneuver in this tactical way, like inside formation better, more organized, or have a better voice comms, or listens better, I don't know, or who will have more guns on the direction. And this degrades an experience a lot.
Yeah.
So it's a total. It might not be a bad game at all, but it's a totally different game. So one thing that RT is doing really well is saying, no, if you will band up, you are increasing highly increasing your chances to get hit by RT.
Yeah.
And get punished.
So one of them is basically crowd control, and the other one is probably hold down things.
Yes, and the other one is the World of Tanks is mainly a game about positioning. So if you can position yourself well in the right moment, you have lots of advantage over any enemy. So there are some positions that are extremely hard to attack, and some vehicles that benefit from those positions a lot, as we do have a huge space, area of maps, and lots of vehicles. There will be always a combination when a specific vehicle on a specific position is becoming extremely powerful, significantly more than we would like to.
Yeah,
so basically,
especially like hold down things like IS-7s or chieftains and stuff like that. Right?
IS-7 in several places, hold down is basically invincible.
But
on the Fjords map, on the old version of Fjords map, there was like that throughout where heavy tanks were, generally speaking, were fighting around the mountain. Yeah. And there was like a small hole. I don't know how to say it properly in English. Sorry. So
there was a spot where an IS-7 specifically could sit. Yeah.
And sitting there, it was becoming. It became basically indestructible.
Mm.
So anybody who was trying to kill the tank was taking shit tons of damage without any potential to actually do something in return. Even shooting high explosive into IS-7 turret is not exactly the best way to kill the vehicle. So mission number 2 is to make sure that if something like that occurs, there is a team might possess an instrument to deal with that situation. So crowd control and dug in fortification control.
But like you said, it's not always the case, right? Like a lot of people will argue that you always need artillery, but I think a lot of games go completely fine even with those scenarios because people learn to deal with it in other ways, right?
I've witnessed with a dug-in scenario, yes, for sure. You always can say fuck it and go and take the base, right? But for mob scenario, no.
Yeah.
So the moment,
but I think that, sorry to inject, but like I personally think that a lot of that also comes down to the way the maps are. Is that in a lot of maps that you run into the situation where, because of the way the map is designed, you cannot scout early enough to see what is coming, and because say you go south on what's it, like North America map or whatever, the swamp map, right? You go south, and it's really late until you know how much enemies there are, which in terms leads to you.
Look, even if you do, and you cannot do anything against it except build up your own crew the same way. So think about, I know, Counter-Strike if you will remove grenades.
Yeah, okay, but like if people would know, like, okay, there's 10 people coming from south, we're only 3 of us, we should go away, right? But a lot of maps don't allow those 3 to go away.
Maybe. I would not argue with that. But what my point is that if there is 3 of us here, there is 12 of us somewhere else. And if they will blow up, there will be exactly the same problem for a different team. And at the end, in case crowd control tool will be gone, it will definitely end with 2 mobs either running towards the base who's getting there faster,
or each other,
or just clash somewhere in one specific spot. Because as I witnessed in one of the other games, Wargaming owns, World of Warplanes, what happened after they changed missiles, what were unguided missiles that were exploding in the air with kind of significant explosion radius, and they reduced it a lot because people were complaining that they got destroyed in the air without being hit, actually. And in, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months, something like that, it all turned down into this tactics. It was called clockwise, counterclockwise.
So you'd never see each other, and you would just run after one another instead. Yeah.
Yes. And it was, okay, so a bunch of us is going together with our assault planes and trying kind of to farm ground targets, being in a blob. If we are unlucky and we pick clockwise and the enemy pick counterclockwise and we clash somewhere in the middle, and then we need to stay all together because the side with more guns on a square cubic meter will win.
But that's even more a thing with planes, of course, right? That's
yes, definitely. But it will work like that. Basically, in any game, you need to have a breaker. You need to have somebody who is extremely dangerous for blobs like that.
Right.
A friend of mine working on a different game for a different company as well told me a story. They were playtesting a shooter game, a multiplayer shooter game. I will not name it. With a group of players. Basically, they were picked up by certain criteria, and they find out very interesting thing, that players completely ignored the fact that there is a grenade in the game. They were packing up, running forward, and on the opposite team, somebody was throwing a grenade into that pack, and from their team, somebody was throwing a grenade as well. It was like total mutual destruction. Because the fact that grenade will kill all of them was not conveyed good enough. So it was not scary enough, let's put it this way. So one of the reasons the artillery works like that is to keep it kind of scary.
That makes sense. But you also said you would preferably maybe want to give them back like AP or heat and whatever, and that seems to focus on specifically hurting like one person, which seems a bit odd to give so much power to someone that cannot be counterplayed for a long
question
time.
Is how much power is much, you know?
Yeah.
So, at the moment, if you will play something really heavy, like Type 5 mouse, whatever, VK rear turret line, 7002 of any modification, these vehicles can be extremely bad targets for RT. They're very well armored. Mouse is phenomenally armored from all sides, basically.
But isn't it also kind of weird though? Because that basically says that you shouldn't shoot at the problem, which is a hold down I7, but you should shoot at the light tank that's in a bush or a medium tank that is no armor, like a Leo 1.
You can, but those tanks usually do also have quite high mobility. If they are stationary and they do not read signs, because RT is not that precise, right? So it's quite rarely hits from the first go. If you know that in this area it is dangerous, you know there are enemy SPG players, it's basically your choice to stay after being discovered.
Yeah, but there's also
the RT to do that.
Yeah, but there's also there's a 2 or 3 second delay in 6 cents plus travel time of the shell, so there's usually not that much time. And
if you react immediately, it's pretty much enough time, because if artillery was not looking specifically at your location, convergence time for RT is significant.
And it's funny because you mostly mention like tier 10s, right? So like heavily armored mouses and whatnot. But like
the pinnacle, the embodiment of the whole line. So if you will pick 9 mouse and below, you will basically see the same kind of characteristics moving up. At the same time, I will agree. Look, I know where you're leading, I believe. I will agree that on tier 5 and 6, there is an issue with RT.
Thank you. Yeah.
If you were trying to lead me there,
I was.
I will not object.
Yes. So, because just to make my point also for the viewers, because there's a lot of new people here. I'm sure I have more viewers than usual. So my point is that artillery, in terms of like the pen and damage they do, and the DPM they can reach. And my most egregious part is the M44, right? Which has the same theoretical DPM as a T92 at tier 10. And the T92 only gets like 10 or so more pen than an M44. But the M44 meets way less armored targets, such as there's a lot of like German things and whatnot. And they can literally 1 or 2 shot even with the HP buffs, right? And I think that you're right that at higher tiers, it's less of an issue if they shoot heavy tanks.
Yeah, I do agree. So,
and also, just to make one more point, also at lower tiers, there's obviously people that are newer, but there's also people with crews that are less good, which leads to people being stunned and tracked way more and longer because they don't have the crews either. Like if everybody had a really good crew, even at tier 5 and 6, it would look a little bit better already. But because a lot of people don't, they come across as so much more powerful. And I think it's also a bit weird that for an artillery player, I can only imagine that if you grind towards the M44, I'm going to focus on the M44 a lot, but there's also like the Hummel and whatnot. But I specifically really hate the characteristics that the M44 has. I just think it's too powerful for the tier. But even from an artillery's perspective, it would feel odd to upgrade in a tier, but basically receive less power. Because if you go up to tier 7, you can already meet the tier 9s, and use, like you said, the tier 9s and tier 10s have the better crews, and tier 8 as well because of premiums, and there's a lot of people playing the premiums. And therefore, if
you're specifically talking about 6 cents, this is something we also would like to address.
No, it's not even 6 cents. I'm just trying to make the point that there's more to it than just the raw characteristics. There's also the people playing them and the specifically the crews.
True. And who
skills.
Are playing them as well. And
the
crews there.
But I'm glad that at least you, maybe not all of your colleagues, will agree that tier 5 and 6 artillery is a bit wild, considering the power level of the higher tiers they get. Because to me, it almost feels like a nerf to go to the M12, for example.
This is something we acknowledge internally, at least, and now publicly, right? And this is something that we will need to deal with. after we figure it out that we need to postpone for unknown date all our the big
Yeah, I'm not going to ask
rebalancing.
for specific questions or specific days because it's always hard to ask in gaming in general. I just want you guys to basically say that, like, yes, I think tier 5 and 6 artillery is a bit overtuned, and maybe some of the high tiers are maybe even undertuned, maybe. But yeah, and also with this in the same vein with rework of ammo, just this harping back slightly. There was also the super test of the HE rework, for example.
It was basically a super or sandbox of everything, like a big semi-public test for all the changes at once.
Yeah,
and the core of it was special shells rebalance, HE rebalance, and artillery
rework
changes.
Yeah,
for the a tool for each job concept.
Yeah,
and like basically speaking, and it's an official opinion as well. So I believe we quite succeeded with special shells, and we failed badly with HE, and we kind of semi-failed with artillery as well.
Yeah.
So if I will pull out, we do have this quiz at the end. So many players who were participating in testing, and I'm really grateful for that. They filled up questionnaire, like what they think.
Right.
So if I will remove scoring for HE and for RT, it was phenomenal. Almost 90% of appreciation of people who have played.
Yeah, on the test server or super test.
Yes. HE and RT had significantly worse score, and this is what moved us back to the drawing board, and sat down and started to talk about everything once again.
And the same goes for like the derp guns, right? People were upset about their KV2s and SU 152s and whatnot.
You know, there were much more people who were upset who didn't even try them in the new system than who did. But generally speaking, yes. So when I'm saying HE was a failure, it also touches vehicles with derp guns or vehicles with derp guns as their primary weapon.
Yeah, because you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is going to be another fairly specific thing. But like the 105 derp guns, right? The one with the heat, which got nerfed like 8 years ago because it had 150 pen, it went to 105. It kind of faces the same issue that tier 5 and 6 artillery have, where they, because of the things they see, there's a lot less armor going around. So you come into the situation where you have a 105 derp that can fairly easily pen a lot of the things they face nowadays.
That is mostly correct, yes.
Well, I've done, I like to call it golfing, and I have a wide variety of videos where I do that. But I actually, even though I've done that, I recognize that I don't think it's very fun because of the tier it inhabits, right? You could argue that the KB2, because it has some real malfunctions, the KB2, because it's big, it's slow, turret is not well armored. Once it fires, it's basically sitting duck for about 20 seconds, right? Whereas when the 105s have like a 4 or 5 second reload if you have a good crew.
Panzer Force.
Yeah.
Same story.
And this is where I'm not entirely sure, but I want to say, and I don't have evidence or like a link or something, but I seem to recall that, at least I think on the European website or whatever, that the Sherman and the 105 were specifically kind of named as like a problem, right? As like a thing that was kind of like overtuned in a way. Because if it meets the right...
That's correct.
Yeah, that's correct, right? Or not? Yeah. So, and this, again, this is really specific, but it's just because I want to know the thought process, right? Latest patch, you added, you up-tiered some scouts, right? That you buffed. I think you buffed it today, actually. The A20, all that, right? But there's one more thing, and this might be way too specific, but you added the tier 4 Sherman that has the same derp as the tier 5, with the same characteristics, a turret, almost same speed, and can two-shot tier 5 mediums that are tier higher. So it seems odd to me that you add that derp while it has a viable other guns.
And it is, yes, and it is odd. And this is probably a part of game's DNA where we sometimes probably too much looking into what was historically accurate.
Yeah, because it's funny because it has 2 other guns that are fairly decent. It has the 76 and it has the smaller derp gun.
So, you know, the official answer will be like this.
Okay.
That particular vehicle, has a derp gun in its first order. So when a military was asking for a vehicle, they specifically stated they want it with the gun. So this is a principal feature of the vehicle, and our historical accuracy team believes that if we will remove that, we will greatly, how to say it,
shame history.
Go against, yes,
Okay.
go against what is one of the core pillars of the project. Like, I sort of agree with them to a certain extent, and over the years we're working with them, and if you guys notice, and I believe you did, that we started to actually like go away from real historical data on many things.
Yeah, obviously, like the first thing people will say is that like an X amount of the tanks is also not historical. So why specifically keep this thing overtuned for historical reasons, but nerf or buff other things because of historical reasons?
I know at least several, basically a dozen super angry professional historians who will say, show us non-historical tanks and we will prove you're wrong, because this is religious. Everything that we do have existed at least as an order or a technical specification. So there are several vehicles that we kind of had freedom to reconstruct because nothing, like literally nothing, was available about them except
like the engine,
half-page or description.
Yeah, I think they talked.
Engine. It's a good one.
Okay.
So we had like an Italian premium vehicle was described in a log of Italian high command discussion. So it was important enough so somebody was taking a log, probably an assistant, and it's a paragraph in log saying like, we need to define and put orders for vehicles that will match this set of characteristics. They will have this and that and that, and they will be armored like this, and they will have a gun like that, sometimes with naming of parts.
Right, yeah, like
it's basically 4 lines on a page. This is everything we were able to find about this one.
Okay.
So this is a reconstruction,
right?
Based on what they were able to use, buy, and assemble. But generally speaking, this is still historical enough. Like, if you will see a reconstruction of Roman legionnaire armor, it will be historical, probably.
Right.
So not all the parts are available.
Okay, so if we take what you just said, right, that is fine. But just to as an example, we'll keep the tier 4 Sherman, right? So why not just change the gun parameters and keep the gun so that historically,
and that's very, very much possible in the future. It is possible
because like you can keep the 105 derp gun, but like half the damage. I'm just like pulling numbers out of my ass, but like, you know what I'm saying? Probably, like you can keep.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I know, and as I said, it's very much possible in the future. But this is like a super core pillar, and I cannot state how important it is for the whole team. Like it is real. It's something in metal. Like this is very, very real tank. It's not what we call a paper tank, right?
Yeah, the Sherman, yeah.
So this has to be there. Yes, we know it costs trouble. This has to be there.
Okay,
because this is a real vehicle. Like this is metal bit, and
so basically,
at some moment, I believe that certain changes will await all the derp guns or HE, hopefully in the bigger picture. But based on how well we will perform on it. But
that was just an example, of course, like because it was such a weird thing that HE is different.
Like this is the answer, believe it or not. This is a religious.
No, I believe it, but I want to ask the question.
Sure. Go ahead, but,
so basically,
this is religious belief.
Yeah, and this is a small cliff note on this. It's really sometimes kind of weird how little ammo things get, but I guess that's the same answer then, where it's like historically it only had 26 shells, even though it's far too less for the game itself.
Talking about Manticore, right?
No, a tier 7 Hellcat, the one we got.
That's 2, yeah. So again, sometimes it might be treated as a balancing parameter, but generally speaking, unless it's completely unplayable, and there are some cases when it is completely unplayable.
But just on top of my head, especially now because of the HP buff, so it's fresh, right? But a lot of the premiums at tier 5, 6, and 7 didn't get more ammo. So like the Hellcat, Super Hellcat, has like 30 shots?
From our perspective, it's not making them unplayable. It just requires you to play in a pretty specific way. Let's put it this way, because there were you haven't seen vehicles that were unplayable. You got, I mean, they didn't even reach super test. Because there were historical vehicles with so small capacity for ammunition,
like
because of different reasons.
Yeah, so like the Stuart Meal, the AMX 57, the Super Hellcat, and there's a bunch of other tanks that feel worse to play because, like, you know how it is when you shoot at people on the move and whatnot, you're bound to miss, hit, whatever. But some of those tanks are so restrictive in their ammo that you play very almost too conservative.
In a different way.
Yeah, but you play almost too conservative because like, I want to take this shot. I would do it in almost every other TD at tier 7, but since I'm playing the Emil with 14 shots, I can't afford to miss one. Because like, so I feel like for gameplay wise, that they like, I think that would take precedent over that historically it only had 14 shells. I know I'm being very specific with some tanks, but I feel like it's a fairly...
I understand what you feel, but like from my point of view, let's put it this way, from my point of view, it is playable. It is playable in a different way, and it might be very interesting to play in a different way from time to time. Yes, to play restrictive, to play, I know, conservative, defensive, whatever you name it. But it is playable, and I mean, lots of people on the CIS cluster as well complain about Manticore. That it's been top 1 damage dealer out of all light tanks in the game.
Statistically, the Manticore is the highest damaging, but you know why I think that's the case? Because the higher, like what you said about balance, where the top 1% plays it, right? I think because of those people, it goes up, right? Then it's supposed to go down. It's supposed to go down, but then no one plays it.
Probably a little bit, but it is so successful in that field that if we will give it more shells, it will, at the moment, grow even higher. So if they're managing to do that amount of damage with this restriction, what they will do if we will lift the restriction like completely? Imagine, I don't know, we will give them infinite amount of armor just for a joke.
No, No, what I'm trying to get at is that I think there's... Well, you can probably prove me wrong with actual data on this, but what it feels like is happening with the Manticore, if that is actually the case, is that almost exclusively the quote-unquote good players have played it, but because the overall negativity of the line, like I don't think it's been received very well. I don't think a lot of new players or people that are less good are playing it.
It's a very I know, professional light tank players line. So here
so the numbers are going to be higher.
My point that the number of shells that is very restrictive on Manticore is not messing up with its ability to deal more damage than any other light tank in the game.
Yeah, so
on average.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that I think on average, more experienced players are playing the Manticore, but almost everyone is playing the EBR right now just because of the how do you say, like the reputation it's gotten online, right?
Circon, I do agree, but it does not break my point that it does not stop it from being very high.
Right.
By increasing that amount, we probably will make it even higher, up to the point where it's become intolerable. And then we either will need to nerf it in a field of less shells again, it won't be nice, or nerf it as a vehicle, a whole, and it's not gonna be nice as well. So my point was, the moment, if we firmly believe, and we have proof, that the amount of ammunition on a vehicle is with proper playstyle is making it unplayable, then we are breaking historical accuracy limitations and do whatever we need to do.
Right.
If we believe that there is a way to play this vehicle effectively and use that ammunition effectively and be successful, and we have a numerical proof in that, then
so basically, if you're saying if Wargaming thinks it's unplayable with the historical ammo amount, you will buff it, but if you think it's fine, you'll keep it that way.
Yes, basically this is the answer. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll not agree, but like we'll agree. We'll agree to disagree.
We're all human. Yes, we're all humans here, right?
Yeah. So, but just to because we're barely off page 1. So just to because
how many pages have you got?
I got 3, so yeah. But so just because we were talking about lights anyway, it's been like roughly 10 months now since you introduced that. And again, if you're looking at the 6 months timeline, you might say the Manticore, like you said, is doing well. But I would, from what I can gather and what from most of my community will tell you, is that the tier 9 and lower especially seem to like underperform massively. In terms of like if you compare it to other scouts, because it seems to be that their main reason is to passively scout and not really do the DPM part, right? And that's probably intended, but it feels that the other scouts can do the same and keep the gun, if that makes sense. So how do you feel the like, what's your opinion on the tier 9 and lower? Like what do you think about their space?
Basically,
or place.
Let's put it this way. I'll kind of I'll dodge that question a little bit, but I hope you understand why. So, British light tanks line is the least popular light tanks line within the least popular light tanks class.
Right.
So, even despite it's 9 months into, or roughly 9 months since we have shipped them, we still feel we do not have enough proofs to do something like
basically not enough people are playing it to provide accurate feedback.
From profiling perspective, definitely not enough. So there are these are very specific people, and we have kind of been maybe too cautious or over cautious with that. However, what I can say to you, first, this is the least popular line, right?
Yeah, probably for a reason. Like the tier 10 might be okay. That's what I keep hearing, is that the tier 10 is okay, but lacks ammo. But you say that's okay. But the tier 9 and lower, from what I've played, 9, it's like crazy.
Tier 9 is the least popular light tank tier 9. And if my memory serves you well, it's about 4 to 5 times less popular than T49, for example.
Yeah,
something like that.
And
so 8s are even worse than that. So it kind of calls to action, and it might lead to an action, but at the same time, we're starving on data due to that. And now we have this choice, like either we need to boost the popularity and hope we will not create a new precedent when in 6 months we will have a conversation with you, and the question will be when you will nerf goddamn British light tanks.
This is actually interesting, okay? So I might be a bit harsh here, but like basically you introduced the tank line that is so bad that no one wants to play it, but the tier 10 is maybe even overperforming because only the good players play it. But because it was designed so poorly, there's not enough people playing it to then rebalance it quick enough.
Kind of, yeah. I can agree with that statement. So we picked up a line that we knew that will be probably the least playable out of all. But also at the same time, we believed it's rather interesting because it's different from other tracked light tanks quite a lot. So it has its own purpose, it has its own philosophy. It was in reality, and some of these vehicles can be seen in museums.
Yeah, it's like a Scorpion or whatever, or versions of that. Okay,
I think as well. So it has its philosophy, it has its way. It served our mission of building up a tank museum in your desk, stuff like that. So we knew that it's not gonna be a super hit, mega popular line that everybody will want to do.
But it was probably even less popular than you. Like, you probably wanted it to be a little bit more popular so you get more data.
Probably yes.
Yeah.
Probably yes. So that's why I'm saying that there is a good chance that we will look into those. There is a good chance because again we religiously believe we have this mission, to bring up a knowledge and ability to see and experience to certain extent vehicles of war. So we wanted to have them. We want to keep them. And that probably means that at some point we will need to do something about that.
Yeah, I think we got an honest answer, like basically. So I think I hope they get buffed, right? And maybe not the tier 10 then, but like the lower tiers are definitely. Well, and I had to ask this question because it's one of the newer ones, and I was wondering as well because from like a player's perspective, it was and that's probably the reason why it isn't played. Is because it felt so underpowered playing them. But let's just go at another question. It's probably a little bit more easier to answer. It's for Frontline, right? So Frontline got the new map. Got a new map. We're now in season 2, and I again have a fairly specific question because it pertains to my community, right? So in season 1, the grind was probably too long, and that's why you shorten it, right? So like the hours committed, which is good. But the one thing that I found weird from going from season 1 to 2 is that if you miss a week in season 2, you cannot regrind the same coins. Is there any real reason for that? Because it feels like you're just punishing players for missing a week instead of letting them regrind. Maybe like you can only regrind one of the previous week, not the previous 2, for example. But like this seems very restrictive, especially for people that have jobs or and stuff like that, right? So or gamification.
That is correct. That is correct. I will agree. At the same time, compared to the last season, we lowered the requirement to get one tank a lot, and that's sort of a price. And we are saying, you want everything? Sure. You can have that. Please do not miss a week. You're happy with any of 2? You are very free to build up your schedule. We have 8 episodes, and you need to be only at 4 at any given moment of time when you see suitable. Is going to be Frontline or it's going to be
okay? So the very honest answer is basically that you want them to get 1. So and 2 if you play a lot.
For us, we said the main prize, the main reward is a tank.
Yeah, it's one tank.
One tank, yes. Yeah. So and there is an additional reward in case you are very dedicated or you really, really want both.
Okay, so I kind of understand. I kind of understand that, but then it seems to me that it's a bit.
Maybe it is a bit too much because we started to get this question. So you're not the first.
Yeah, I'm sure. Obviously, people want every tank, right? That's always a thing, and it's.
Absolutely. So now we started to discuss, like, is it? Maybe we were wrong with that assumption, right? Maybe we should offer a way around that. We'll see. If we will have a good answer, we will announce it. But,
but it's definitely on the radar, and more people are asking about this. Basically,
the answer to your question will be the philosophy of the season 2 after the very, very grindy, super long season 1 was okay. So it's not gonna be grindy at all. What is your minimal amount of playtime you need to spend to get a prize? That sounds really relaxed. And then there was another question. So what's the price? Okay, let's put a tank. Now, what if I am a very dedicated person? For being very dedicated, what is my price? What is my reward? There was an answer. So here is another tank. So that was a cornerstone of the decision we made. So this is not obligatory reward.
But you can see how, from a community perspective, it comes across as really crude, right? Because if you communicate it like, okay, we basically want everybody to get 1 tank, and only the really dedicated get 2 from the get-go, it would probably be better, but I still don't think it would be.
No, I don't think it's gonna be better. I think it might be even worse than that.
Maybe, but I don't think this was a really good solution to it either. So, but I'm glad it's at least on the radar, because I'm hoping that you'll find a way to up that a little bit, or because I think it's a big deal personally, because it's like 1 week every month. It's a lot of time.
Not every month. It's 8 months out of 12, so it's basically 2/3 of a year.
True, but I think I grinded 2 weeks of Frontline last month, which is 2 weeks and 4 weeks, which is a bit much.
There was a very specific reason for that, and we said sorry about that to our CIS players.
Okay. I'm not sure if that happened to you. It could have been. I'm not sure.
I think it is because in February we got hit by DDoS attack, and that affected our capacity to ship stuff and to launch events, and then our schedule for everything went to nothingness.
Oh yeah, so you put that week in.
Yes, we had to pack a little bit, otherwise we were basically ruining the whole schedule, planned schedule for a year for everything else. And there was 2 choices for us. First, to change the schedule. It was possible, but we kind of liked it a lot, and we wanted to. We believe you guys will like it a lot at the end. So we made a decision to pack a little bit in basically March, April, to pack it a little bit more dense in order to save everything else.
Right.
So that's probably why you had this two very
because it was 2 weeks and 4 weeks. It was like, okay, Frontlines. Yeah.
Yes, it's a little bit too much. I do agree, but the reason for that is not because we're crazy. And
it was not intended. It was kind of like a duct tape solution, kind of. Yeah, okay, I get it. One other question, and this is probably pretty easy. So the reward tanks for Frontline, which if people like Frontline a lot, they play tier 8. But the reward tanks at tier 9. Not that I have a problem with that, because I think tier 9 is probably the best tier because of how matchmaking works. I'm just wondering why not just give more tier 8 so that the people that love Frontline can play their Frontline tanks in Frontline. It seems a bit weird to go for like a tier 9.
Also tier 8 is the most populated and probably overpopulated tier.
Oversaturated.
This is the answer. Yes, oversaturated. This is the answer number 1. The answer number 2, generally speaking, people who are getting rewards are players who do very well in Frontline. Specifically, it's not necessarily means they will do very well in random battles.
Yeah,
I'll keep it the definition like that. They do very well in Frontline. So by giving them, by giving them non-good vehicles, not good vehicles, weak vehicles, we will offend them. By giving them good vehicles, we probably will make them unbeatable. Impossible to compete against, something like that in Frontline. So the answer was okay. So we do have a really comfortable tier with good interest in vehicles that is far from being oversaturated. That has a pretty nice neat possession because it's basically a preferential matchmaker tier, right?
Yeah, and that is the next thing I want to go to as well.
Yeah. They have one tier above, and they're pretty comfortable thanks to that. So why not create a reward vehicles from there? And it's also due to the fact, and I will be plainly honest here with you guys, due to the fact that by shipping lots and lots and lots of tier 8 vehicles, we kind of started to fail shortage. I mean, we are not inventing vehicles from our dreams, right? So we need to find
you already
look for them.
Yeah, you already made so many tier 8 that it's harder and harder to find more tier 8.
It's harder and harder to find more projects that are not completely insane, because trust me, there are projects that we never will do in the game, because people who were making them were crazy.
Right. So
literally sometimes.
Yeah, so I get it. So oversaturation of tier 8 and basically better matchmaking at tier 9. Matchmaking is also like a kind of a hot topic, right? Because back in the day, it was like you could see like tier 5s could see like tier 8 or whatever. Like scouts of tier 5 saw tier 10.
Tier 9s.
Yeah, it was
+4.
Yeah,
I remember that. I started to play that days.
Yeah, so and that was because, of course, there's less players, so you need a wider variation and to get people playing, right? That makes sense back in the day. And then you switch to the +2 -2 and the +3 -3 for scouts were. I don't remember what scouts were.
No, scouts were. It was a special matchmaker for scouts because they were at some point they were the only class without tier 10.
Yeah.
So for them, it was completely different. So they had 8 as a max tier, and 8 was participating
in tier 10
up to tier 12 battles.
Yeah.
So it's +5 for it.
Yeah. So the question
+4. I'm sorry.
The question is, like, if you look at it historically, right? You made adjustments according to the game and according to how many people are playing as well. I think is a fairly big deal, because if you have less players, you need to widen the search. And this is probably a question you get a lot. But +2 -2 is obviously a thing now, and like you just said with Frontline with tier 9, is that tier 9 is effectively like a really comfortable tier because it has limited benchmarking, right? It sees tier 10 up, but it also sees -2 down. Don't you think by now it's maybe time to make the whole game +1 -1 so that everybody is a little bit more comfortable in that situation? And I know there is limited matchmaking tanks, but you could do other stuff to them because they're way less of those now than the rest of them.
I'm not saying no, we can't. So I will not use an argument, but we have preferential matchmaker tanks for this. So the answer will be very subjective, right? So I believe that having enough variety, not only in visual looks of vehicle, but also in power as well, is making a game more engaging on a long run, because I have more situations in general to deal with, to adapt with, to learn something from, and B, is creating more, let's put it this way, equal chances for players who do not play as well to shine.
Yeah, basically it's a way for the top tiers to have a good game every once in a while, even if they're not good players. But,
so +-2 kind of serve this purposes well enough at the moment, and it's not too harsh on everybody else. It sometimes may be very nice to you and things like that. So technically speaking, there is no reasons for us not to do whatever +-. We, after the changes we made to Matchmakers last year, we can, I think, do anything.
Yeah, because it was a problem, right? Where tier 8 was seeing way too much tier 10, which is also
it was a much more problem of templates. If you recall how the Matchmaker was evolving, so the very old one prior to 2017, and it's not the oldest one. It's the oldest I remember with enough details. Let's put it this way. It was very random in the way it assembled. It assembled teams, and we had weird matches with whatever 15 artists on 2 teams.
But that's way old.
Like that. Yeah, so that's old. Our answer to that, based on analysis of the queue back then, so we started to do something with it in 2016. So in 2016, we looked at the queue, checked how players play the tiers, and find out that there is a very interesting template that we called 357. So basically, if you take any 3 tiers starting from tier 10, back then, it was 3 tier 10s versus 5 tier 9s versus 7 tier 8s. And then each 3 of tier 9s, and it was repeating itself all the time. It was really, really intriguing to find something like that. And based on this discovery, we built up in 2017 what we call templated matchmaking. So the one that was pushing 357. However, the audience preferences are changing with time, and the game is changing as well. And there are more vehicles.
And the power levels.
Attractive, less attractive. Yes, power levels, game modes, whatever, competitive clans, whatnot. Lots of factors that are influencing things. So I probably believe that even before we really finished to build 357 solution, it already started to break a little bit here and there. And still, when we shipped it, everybody were super happy. I remember this very clearly, how well it was received across the board compared to the previous version. In a year from that point, so end of 2017, very beginning of 2018, we started to have huge issues with that.
Yeah, because that's when tier 8 saw tier 10 like every game, basically.
Yes. So basically, with time, and again, it was sort of logical. I mean, if we would have a time machine, right, and went back there and said, "Look, guys, look there, like, look at this. It's not going to work for a long time because of these tendencies and trends." But back then, we were not so smart as we are right now. So we didn't look at the right bits of data or overlooked the right bits of data. So we went to a situation when we had very significant growth of tens. Those tens started to consume too much because of this 357 ratio, right? For each 3 tens, we had to provide 7 8s to satisfy the will. So they started to consume way too much 8s.
To give the tier 10s that matchmaking,
Yes, that led to lots of other problems across all the tiers. So it started to basically break apart. So our doing or making Matchmaker is extremely challenging task, because this is a high load, high performance solution that is supposed to work like forever, always.
It's also hard because of the spread, right? Like if you only had to spread 3 tiers compared to 5, that's a big difference for matchmaking to handle, right?
Theoretically, yes, but it's much more difficult in a field of this thing should work, never hang. Do not drop a cluster.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And it.
By the way,
is supposed to.
Sorry, I do have a with the matchmaking, right? How is it? Is it currently, because there was 3 templates, right? There is 510, 357, and 1515, right? So like,
no, these are templates,
and it's a little bit
the most.
No, there is some anomalies. Yeah, there's some anomalies, right?
It's not anomalies; it's smartness.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's adapting so that has fast queues.
It is capable of analyzing the queue. Based on its experience of building up templates that we believe are good, and in case it's started to become problematic, it can adapt and it can change the way how it builds to allow the queue to normalize.
Yeah. No, I get it. But the question I wanted to ask was because I'm still not. I don't think I ever 100% got a confirmed answer on this. But if the matchmaking were to give you perfect matchmaking every time, would that always be 357 one way or another? You either being top tier or bottom tier? Would that always be the preferential before it starts looking for 510 and same tier?
That's probably comes from your definition of perfect matchmaking.
Yeah, well, I'm asking.
What's yours?
No. I'm asking. What does the matchmaker? What does the matchmaker think is the perfect matchmaking? Is that the 357?
No, it's matchmakers that will match you in 0 seconds.
Whatever is the fastest, so it doesn't actually. Okay. I want to know that.
This will be the biggest, the most important criteria, because again, we can optimize the system so it will mirror better. It will have lots and lots of small, tiny rules here and there. But what we are trying to deliver all the time is a very predictable, short queue times. Because we believe this is a super important thing. So
yeah,
I remember as a player.
No, I know. Like from previous interviews, whatever. I know that queue times is a big deal for you. It's perceived as a really big deal that you want guys into the game as fast as possible.
Yes,
I knew that.
It is one of the primary concerns. Everything else is secondary to that.
But,
we are trying to find good templates, like good ratios, because of power of vehicles as well.
Yeah.
That will be served as quick as possible. So if the ratio will be, 10 persons better, whatever 10 persons mean right now, but it will require 20 or even 10 persons more waiting time across the board, we will not pick it up. Because if you will think about queue times as we are thinking about it, like we have billions of fight every day. If we will increase the ratio, the distance in time in between these fights by 10 persons, this amount will drop a lot.
It's like a ripple effect.
Serve less. Yes, we will serve less. It means that for the same money, and we are paying a premium price for our hardware.
Yeah.
All the time to keep it running. It's like quality of service 99.8 is, I think it's called. It's incredibly stable. It's incredibly expensive to maintain. So if we will reduce or increase queue times by 10 persons, you can perceive it that we will increase the cost of handling all the hardware by 10 persons, if you would like.
Right. So what would you say? Because I know people will ask this question, like, because there's people that would say, like, I'd rather wait 30 seconds for better matchmaking. But
what about?
I'm guessing your answer
in Asia.
Yeah,
I'm 5 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm guessing that it will affect the other people that don't want it more, and it's probably more of those people.
First, yes, and it will also mean that if one person will have a little bit more comfort, I don't know, sitting at tier 8 and waiting, then the other person might wait significantly more. So I mean, it's non-linear. It's not just like
I know,
a small lever and it rises up by 10 persons across the board, right? It's not going to work like that. It's indeed ripples, and each ripple will be bigger. So it means that 30 seconds on tier 8 might very easily turn into 5 minutes at tier 3 or 4, or on a smaller clusters. And we have Asian players, right? And there are much less than.
But you could argue, but you could argue that you could do it per server though in that case. Because I think Asia ran a test for pretty long time for plus or minus on matchmaking.
Nope.
Did
It was a test of adaptive matchmaking.
Right, but
it just had significantly less, as we were not positive about the stability of algorithm. It has significantly more freedom on how it will adapt. If it was avoiding the risk of kind of overheating. So
and you did it on
at
Asia because
some
there's less
point,
players.
Yes, and we did it on the safest environment where we still were able to test it on under the real under the real load. Yes. So and it went to +-1 very often.
Yes.
So it was not ever limited to +-1. But
I gotcha. But you guys were not happy with what came out of that, because I feel like the response is pretty positive, but I could be wrong.
It is tactically, not strategically. So again, it's something that people will be happy at first for a while and then unhappy on the long run. And I would here prefer long run over the short run every time.
Right. Okay.
So well, I believe that the engagement will drop, and it will drop significantly, because I remember my emotions from playing +-4 in old years. And emotions I had when I was able with whatever tier 7 and me being tier 4 to somehow finish off a horrible tier 9. That was very damaging, and it was, it was phenomenal. It was like I don't know.
I mean, I think at the end of the day,
winning the lottery.
Yeah, I like
this is something I value as well in the game.
Yeah, this is just but so like I still think, but that's like a personal thing. I still think +-1 leads to more fun games, and I seem to have the most fun currently in Royal Tanks if it's +-1. Like if I look towards the replays that I upload, for example, the vast majority of those will be +-1. But I mean, there's nothing more I can say about it. Like it's
sure, but so look at it this way: at the moment, it creates enough variety, so it provides you with +-1 as well, and there is plenty of +-1 battles to be honest in persons.
But we'll never
have this experience. But if we will pull it to +-1, the experience of having the other battles will disappear completely, and it also will definitely lead, because I started this long tale about matchmaking evolutions, and I wanted to at some point to lead to one of the changes we had to make. And we introduced grand battles as a way to get tier 10s away. Let's put it
from the matchmaking.
Yes,
I knew it. I think I even sorry, go on.
So
I had a feeling that was the reason why it was a thing. But go on.
Think about it as a big prototype of Frontline. And ad hoc solution to issues Matchmaker was having. And if we will do +-1 also, it's guaranteed will lead to significant growth of same tier battles as well. Like significant growth. I think they will be 2 swords or something like that of all the battles. But it's out of the blue. I do not remember calculations by heart.
So just because we're a bit on limited time, I just want to continue. But basically, +-1 will very likely never happen because of the 357 and the.
I would never say never, as James Bond was advising.
Okay, right? Fair enough, but it's not likely. Yeah.
But so far, based on what's going on, how many matches are being played, what tiers are well populated, what tiers are less populated, and stuff like that. There is no, from my perspective, as a person, as a company official, there is no reason to do that, because I believe it will cost more in emotions and experience and enjoyment than it will bring on the long run.
Fair enough.
If it will change, and we will see as the game evolved over those last 4 years, right? Since templated matchmaker started to be developed, exactly 4 years. If it will evolve and will continue to evolve in a specific direction, I cannot exclude this possibility. So not never, not now, for sure.
Because it kind of leads on to another thing I want to talk about, which is tier 10, right? Because I feel like the tier 10 the tier 10s from 5 years ago versus the ones from now is like a very distinct power level difference. Even in the tech trees themselves, the tier 10s have become more powerful, even like the mouse and stuff, right? Even after the buffs and then the nerfs, whatever, it's still better than what it used to be.
That is true.
Yeah,
that is
so...
true.
But now, obviously, we have the EBR, which is causing issues, right? And the other two major players in this are the Reward Tank, the 279E, and the Chieftain, right? And to me, just to preface this, I feel like it's almost an entire new matchmaking level. Like, I feel like they're almost like a tier 11 if you would put them in a tech tree. And in matchmaking wise, and this is why I like +1 -1, for example, and not -2, is that these things are already way too good against their own tier, let alone stomping down at like tier 8, for example. So is there anything that you could like? Are those gonna be singled out into like if you're not gonna nerf them?
We're discussing what to do with that right now. We are discussing this. It creates a lot of problems on competitive play in a competitive play as well.
Yeah, because a lot of people are advocating, for example, for rank to be tech tree only.
I'm not only talking about rank. I'm also talking about clan wars, global map stuff, where it might get even worse than it might get in rank.
Right.
Because the density, especially when you are competing with being top clan, competing with top clans, where everybody will have this one, it can lead to a very, how to say it, boring battle of...
because then you don't have the variety you're looking for in random battles. If ranked battles is 90% chieftains and EBRs, it's like...
Yes, so it is a problem. I wouldn't even dare to talk about any solutions, because for us this is something we never encountered before. Again, intention, like it always often happens, was pretty good, because we wanted to provide something worth fighting for, both for clan players and for people who are doing personal missions. So both of those vehicles were meant to be like an ultimate prize for best of the best, and they are. So here we succeeded. At the same time, they are problematic in their own right. So we do not have a normal, process of dealing with situations like that, because the only case that I can recall is T22 Medium, that we were forced to nerf into oblivion. And I don't think it's that bad yet, but we started to discuss what to do. We again, if you want me to acknowledge the problem, yes, I do acknowledge the problem. I would probably disagree that our tier 11, but they're tier 10.5 for sure. They're very strong. They're very strong.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering, because like, for example, to me, if you were gonna make a ranked mode, for example, like it would, like, a lot of things that are ranked, like competitive, right, in any game or whatever, is a fairly equal playing field, and I feel like making ranked tech tree only
it's an easy solution for ranked, but it will not solve issues with clans at all. So it might like.
But just like the EBR that you made one per team, you could probably implement this as well, right?
EBR one per team, it's a different story a little bit, and it's also again bring us into the realm of matchmaking. And as we are indeed short on time, I wouldn't even start. But it's much more related to matchmaking than to power.
So it is
however,
yeah,
it's a performance improvement rather than specific our belief that EBR is imbalanced or something like that. But and at the same time being forced to follow a ranked matchmaking rule number 1, be mirrored. Okay, it's too long to start. But yeah, it's more technical. However, the solution of banning them out of ranked or
just flat. I'm not just these, just like all the
anything else.
Yeah, M60 whatever.
Yeah. It might work, and it will work for sure
for ranked. I think it's
specific modes. Yes.
Yeah.
It won't work somewhere else. It won't work in
but like
for global map.
Well, I definitely think they need adjusting for random battles, but I think Clan Wars and Strongholds is such a different beast anyway that I would find it like that's where I would want to see all the chieftains and stuff. Like it makes way more sense to see them in Clan Wars in mass than it would ever.
They're problematic there as well. That is my point. So first we will try to find a way to kind of make it good everywhere. If there will be no answer, and there is a chance that there will be no answer, being frank. We will probably implement some sort of a local solutions and then start to look for another local solutions. But I personally am not a big fan of small local solutions because they're very hard to maintain. And
I think in this hyper specific version, I think the ranked one should be really easy personally. And yes, I do hope they do get nerfed because they're pretty ridiculous.
Think about it again. Think about it from a little bit different perspective more as a developer. What I mean when I'm saying maintain, it means that every patch, a specific group of people has to ensure that this thing works every time. And it will increase the testing time by 100 man-hours every time for every patch. And then also, as the mode-based matchmaker is a child of a big matchmaker, it also will mean that whatever we will do with a father matchmaker, we need to ensure that the small one is fine. And it's continue to work and do the thing right. And the more difference they will have, the more expensive it's gonna be to maintain. So when I'm saying maintain, I don't mean like do and forget. I mean that six times a year at least, plus all micro patches and whatever. Oh my God, save my soul patches.
Yeah,
we have to make.
I get what you're saying, but to me it just feels like that there is either not enough manpower or they're not like. It sounds like, but because like from my perspective, it's way different, right? So like to me, it just sounds like no one wants to do the effort of putting the chieftain out of ranked every patch. Right? But I know that's very crude and like a pleb way of saying it, but that's what that's what it comes across, right? I'm not singling you out.
If it sounds like that, I'm sorry. I mean, it's not like that. It has its price and it has its consequence. It also has a very strange limitation that you probably would like to think about as once as ranked season three episodes has started, it's a very bad idea to change rules.
Right.
Because stakes are very high, winners are proud and praised, and the moment when somebody will start to complain to us, to our customer support, saying, I would be number one.
But wasn't the EBR mid-season? The EBR change?
Nope.
Oh, it was the new season? Okay. I don't play ranked because there's a lot of chieftains there that I don't want to play against.
But EBR was significantly...
right.
It's older than chieftains, so no. EBR entered the game when the season has started.
All right. So we can't really get a concrete answer on like nerfs or anything like that. And except for the EBR then, because that's deck tree. But the chieftain might not get touched and the other one might not get touched.
As I said, the first take would be to find a more or less universal or general solution for that problem without hurting too much, let's say, people who invested a lot of their time and effort into getting those vehicles.
Yeah, it's also the way, how different do you weigh it, right? Like, do you favor the people that get them and you want to keep them happy, or do you want to keep the people that don't have it and probably are not gonna get it happy? So it's like a way.
It's gonna be a compromise, and all compromises are normally not situations when everybody happy, right? It's rather situations and
I realize that
somewhat unhappy.
I realize that, but I'm just concerned that you're maybe thinking almost too much about the people that do have a chieftain that already invested so heavily into world things instead of the people they're playing.
I'm trying. I believe that I'm trying to think about all groups kind of equally deep, right?
Yeah.
But that group exists as well, right? Those people who invested their time. There is a group that is suffering, and that's why we're even trying to fix the thing, right? To change the thing. If we would not think about them at all, why we would bother? Just less work to do, right?
Yeah. So I don't think I'm gonna get more out of you on this one. So we're gonna hop over to another question if that's okay.
Sure.
It's probably a slightly easier one. For PvE, right? So we got Road to Berlin now. Homefront was, I think, previous one. I would just like to know, is it like, what's the direction you want to take PvE? Is it going to be working towards being like a mainstay 24/7 thing? Or is it going to be like more like event/historical only? Like, what's kind of the vision you want PvE to take for the...
For as long as I can see it, it's event only. But I can't, again, I wouldn't say never. So what we are trying to achieve with that, we have a team that is pretty good at making multiplayer competitive game. And we are training, we're learning to do PvE. So when we will be happy with what we are doing, like really happy, very, very happy, then we probably think about what else we can do.
Yeah. So as you learn and the modes get better, you might think about making it a mainstay at some point.
It might
or
evolve.
not.
Yes, but for a while, I think it's a good change of pace. I know lots of people happy with boss PvE events. We also do Halloweens that are PvE. So for event engine, for event gameplays, it's pretty good.
But my personal feeling afterwards is that events are fine, but a mainstay would be bad because you would get this like.
I think about that too, because if they will have zero influence on economy, so they will be just fun events, they're pretty expensive to produce as well and to debug. They won't be popular, right? So they will be costly and nobody will want them. If they will have an impact on economy, they might become farms for whatever, silver grinding.
You get these people that get to tier 10 without ever PvPing. Like hypothetically.
Yes, hypothetically, right? Even if they are not participating, whatever, in experience economy, it will be problematic. So what I would like to use them for while we are training to kind of honor big tank battles and like events that work linked to tanks one way or another.
Yeah, like I think historical and like is a good way of doing it.
Like historical, purely fantasy,
or like Halloween multi-turret things.
Crazy multi-turret things, cash green energy thing.
The main reason I asked this is because I'm concerned if it's a mainstay that
there is no. It's not rational for us to do it as a mainstay as it is for now. If and when we will learn like really well how to do like good narrative-driven PvE experience with emotions and stuff like that, who knows? Maybe we will end up doing a new game.
Or a separate game or whatever.
PvE centric, right? Adventures of whatever. Of whomever.
Kind of, I think, didn't console have something like that? But I could be wrong. I don't follow console news. So
they do.
Yeah.
They have a series of missions. But like I
think
came from PvE background. I came from retail box story-driven games. And I would try beta for myself. I wouldn't ship something like that. I want to make it better. I'm not saying that guys did bad, but I just want to make it better.
It's and like you said, they're mostly focused on or mostly trained in PvP, not so much PvE. So it kind of makes sense. The PvE is behind the PvP element, I guess.
Yes, while console team is significantly more experienced than that. So we just reached their level with more or less was what we just shipped was Raw to Berlin, and they shipped their war stories, I think 2 years ago, something like that.
All right, so the next one is one that is close to my heart. Close to my heart, Andrey. What is up with the soap rocks that are in the game since 1.0, I think, where you like slip and slide and go up buildings?
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah. All right, I'm sitting down.
So this is I think this is the third most popular question right after EBR and plus
artillery?
-1.
Oh, okay.
No, plus one. Artillery went actually down the list compared to what it was years ago. So an explanation will be kind of technical. So
just go into it.
Yes. What do we have? We have a terrain, and we do have objects on terrain. So rocks are objects, right? Land is landscape, is a terrain. The objects and terrain are governed by two different physics systems.
Two different physical,
Yes, one of them is World of Tanks original physics system. So when you drive over the landscape, it kind of what makes things work. And objects, especially objects that could be destroyed, like a pile of bricks or something, or a pillar, they are driven by Havok physics. And on a spot where these two systems interlink, there are issues that we alone cannot resolve. So we are trying, together with our partners, to find a solution, how to make it right and do not cause even more issues trying to fix this one. So,
okay, so
kind of point number one, there are issues. Point number two, we know there are issues. Point number three, we are working on those issues. Point number four, this is very technically complicated.
Yeah, so
and we cannot fix this alone.
Right, so to iterate, you have basically two engines working together in unison.
Yep.
One is your in-house, one is Havok, right?
Yes.
And there is something with them working together that is not 100% correct, which is causing the soap rocks and climbing up buildings.
And some other issues as well, like, for example, sometimes you can shoot through terrain that you see blocking your sides, but actually not. And sometimes you can shoot, and in the thin air, it will smash into something that is invisible.
Right.
So there are several sets of these issues that we hate, we fight, and one day we will overcome.
So it's definitely you don't know what the bug is, but you know it's between those two engines that is causing the soap rocks, basically.
Probably my technical knowledge is not good enough to explain you what the bug is. I can try, but if any of your viewers will then throw a rotten tomato at me, then
no, but I'm just trying to keep it a little bit simple, just in one or two sentences. So it's like two engines.
I'll try in a simple way. So a physics engine is trying to figure out when different objects are being colliding each other. So when I'm driving and I'm driving into a rock sort of knows that I'm driving into it. And me, a tank, a character, also knows that it's driving into a rock. It is made as a set of checks. And those checks are performed versus volumes, let's say, but versus polygons. Again, I'm lacking a little bit, probably English words.
I think I get it so far. Yeah, okay, no, it's fine.
Right. So two engines, ours and Havok's, have a different resolution of this polygon. So in one case they are bigger, in the other case they are smaller. And when they intersect, it's imperfect intersection.
Right. And that allows you, because one of the engines says you can climb up there, but the other one is
one of
small.
the engine does not know that you're climbing it. Yeah. Another one does not know that it's climbing something different.
Right.
So on that point, there are different forces that are influencing the tank. Both engines are trying to do their things the best way they can. This is what we have right now, is sort of the best outcome that we managed to achieve so far. So yes, it is uncomfortable. Again, we acknowledge that is a problem. We are going to fix that.
Yeah.
Question when?
Yeah. Hopefully as soon as possible, but that's what you guys want as well. Like
it's something pretty bad.
So in the same vein, there's also a thing that I don't know. I feel like it cropped up lately instead of like where Soap Rocks was more like 1.0, which was that there seems to be like an inconsistency between walls and cars or whatever they're not you can shoot through with APCR, and some of them that you can't. Like for example on Ensk, there's ones you cannot shoot through and they don't hit the target behind it, but the same model of car can be shoot through on like Kharkov or whatever. So is that also because of this whole engine versus engine thing, or is that like a different issue?
Sort of connected to it, but not exactly. Simpler way to say, this is something that we can fix, but we cannot fix it on a systemic level. We can fix it on case-by-case basis. So as far as I remember, since we shipped 1.0, we had about 900 tickets with different objects with this kind of problems. And out of those, so far, we fixed about 800 something. So about 100 we know are not fixed yet, will be. And there is a known number of things that we don't know. So if you want this problem to go for now, and before we will fix a bigger ratio in between two physics engines, please let us know. Let customer service know. I have encountered this vehicle on Kharkov, and do screenshot, describe the problem, send it.
Right.
And I'm addressing all the players right now. So it does not mean that tomorrow we will fix it. I'm sorry, it's not gonna work like that. But we will know about that, and we will fix it.
Yeah. So unlike the soap rocks, that is something we can contribute to.
That's something that we can manually go into and fix.
Right.
Not systemically.
If I send you the cars in Ensk, then that will eventually lead to a fix.
Yes.
Right.
If it's not in the roughly 100 that we know and it's not fixed yet.
Right.
If you add up one more to it, great, because we tend to kind of assemble them into packs and kind of ship like that, not to ship a map every patch.
Right. Yeah.
Try to connect it.
Right. It's
into groups.
I think the same is that the destructible thing where does it also go for like the bushes and stuff? Because that also seems to be sometimes inconsistent, especially the one on Fisherman's Bay is like a notorious one where it seems like the northern, they have like the hill in the middle. I don't know if you know the map, but you probably like how well you know the map specifically. Fisherman's Bay, middle of the map. There's two
ruins and a monument.
Like if you look on the minimap, it's a little bit on the right side of the hill. Right, there's the northern spawn bushes seem to either not work or work way or less well than the southern spawn bushes.
It could be as well, and this is also fixable manually. So again, if you believe so,
send it in.
Actually, you explain this one to me, right? So I'll write it down right into the level.
Yeah, I'll even take a screenshot today if you want. Like there's a lot of bushes and stuff in the games, but specifically the Fisherman's Bay one is almost becoming a joke where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna go there because he'll always outspot me even if we're playing the same vehicle. So. But yeah,
sure, guys will check it out. It is possible. Like I'll tell you, I cannot personally remember like that as being so bad, but
yeah, like it's like an in-house joke.
I do not really play light tanks, and I tend to play more heavier, more armored vehicles. So
yeah, then you're not going to be there.
My place to play, right?
Right.
So I'll ask guys to check. Thank you. The trick has it is possible. I cannot guarantee that this is particularly the case, but it is possible that from
I'm just wondering if it's
a bush will have a different properties,
right?
Because it's
the only reason I asked
not the same bush.
The only reason I asked is because it felt kind of like the car problem, where some bushes were not programmed in yet, where you cannot shoot through the cars. Well, it's maybe the same.
It's not that they're not programmed. Like from a programming point of view, it's a data. So it's something that code takes. So if the data is being set up in wrong way on an entity, then code will work correctly. It just the entity will not work as you expect it to work.
Right.
So, it's one of the key design principles that I try to follow, and we try to follow, is keep the consistency. So if you guys feel it's inconsistent, report it.
Yeah, because
if it's indeed inconsistent, we will fix it.
Yeah, because to me that's very important. That like I don't care if a car is destructible or not with a shot and then it depends another tank, but it has to be consistent. That's really big for me personally. Like if I use this bush that looks the same as the bush on the other map, I want it to give me the same data or the same feedback, right? If I want to shoot through a car, I want to always shoot through a car and hit the car behind it, or all cars stop the bullet entirely. But one of the two, right?
It's pretty important. I mean, the game, unlike real life, right? It's also fun because it is somewhat predictable. I mean, it has very clear set rules that if you know, you can sometimes even exploit or at least follow and expect others to follow the same rules. Why people are hating cheaters so much? Because they're basically ruining the predictability. They're ruining the world. It's like a magic in the real world. People would hate magics if they exist. So this is I completely agree here. This is rather important to have. So the only trick here for us as a developer group, it's enormous amount of things to check manually.
Yeah,
So,
just like any other game, it's the hardest to keep the consistency.
yes.
But
So
I just want to hammer home that it's really important, basically.
Yes, it is. It is
Yeah.
absolutely important. It's one of the key principles of something being a game and game design being game design.
Yeah, and this is like it's we're over 2 hours in now, so let me know if it's maybe too long of an answer. But I was curious because it kind of leads into the same thing, because you said it's very important to have like to have things always work the same way, right? Because that's how the game works. You can play the game and it performs the way you know it does, because that's the experience you get, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because there's also crew rework that we know is in the works, right? And just to lay my personal concerns about it would be, I think it's awesome that we're getting one, right? That it's being thought of and that it's being made or reworked, because clearly it needs it, right? 6th Sense and baseline and all that. But I'm going to be like on a personal note, I think it's really important to keep some perimeters always in check, and I'm kind of worried that might not happen. I know nothing about rework, so if you could go a little bit into detail, it would be good. But for example, I really like the fact that Royal Tanks rewards you for knowing a lot about all the tanks you can face. If I know that the T10 I'm fighting has an 11-second reload, I can play better, right? Yes. So the knowledge base that you have in World of Tanks is really nice to have, and this and separates the good from the worse or the newer players is knowing those reloads, knowing the average view range of the pattern you're fighting, for example. So I hope that we don't come into a situation where the crew can swing one or two ways. For example, you can put a crew really heavily into view range, but his reload suffers a lot. Or you can have, so like what I'm saying is, I don't want a pattern with an 8-second reload. And
yes, I got it. I got it. And it's indeed, it touches down the predictability felt a lot.
Yeah.
So we believe, probably it's indeed too late, and the topic is a little bit too big to quickly explain. But what I can guarantee you will be like this. This crew feature will move into a pre-production table. We will have a sandbox, and we'll invite everyone to take a pick to try and play. While we were designing, we extensively used knowledge from Game Balance team as well, because it's not Game Balance team exactly who is doing crew, but we used their representative is always on the team to make sure that we will not do that. Create an RPG-like progression where a person who did a big investment of time into his crew is significantly powerful, either through raw power, raw mechanical stats, or through unpredictability, or being able to surprise an opponent.
Yeah.
We do not want that. We understand that the game, one of the bets of fun of the game is the fact that you can learn and apply the knowledge effectively and benefit from this learning and knowledge.
Yeah,
we do not want to break this one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I don't. If you have, for example, 2 KV1s that have the 122mm, I don't want one to have an 8-second reload and no view range, and the other guy has 500 view range and 20-second reload. Like, I know it's extreme, but you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
Yes,
that's what I'm concerned about. Yeah.
That's why, like, the big plan for that is, once it's done on a good enough level to be deployed onto Sandbox, it will be deployed onto Sandbox, and the design is not considered complete before that. On a Sandbox, you guys will play, and you know from balance changes as well that if it's not gonna be good, and the community reception is not gonna be good, and our data that we will collect from Sandbox will show us it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be shipped.
Yeah.
Period. So we do have like a dream. We want different tanks to have these different roles that are supported by different crews. We do not want everyone to learn in the same, frantical sequence, like 6th Sense, Reaper, Stealth.
Yeah. Because now it's mostly the
radio.
same, right? Because you go like
Yes,
present arms,
unfortunately,
6 ends, blah, blah, blah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Based on are you paying or unpaying player, you do that in a particular way. If you're a paying player, you start with brother and arms. I was a paying player before I joined wargaming, so I always start with repairs. I learn repairs and drop repairs. Now, okay, good. Now I have something. Now I have 6 cents, whatever, this, and that, and 2 repairs, and I'm good at repairs and kind of cool here. Now I'm getting second perk, and again now I relearn. Repair is going to the third.
I was there too. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay,
I'm looking forward to hopefully good changes there, because they're really like old by now. Like the whole system feels old.
This is the oldest feature, like in the pipe right now. So this is the oldest feature we are clashing around. We started the rework late 2017.
Right.
There were so many versions that were burned in green flames that you cannot imagine.
Yeah, but
so
and it's the same for like just as a short question. You don't have to answer it long. It's like is equipment also being looked at in tandem with the crew rework? Because I imagine that's a
they shouldn't get into a conflict, but they can be separated.
Right.
So this is a little bit different sort of approaches. You cannot level your equipment, right? You have this limited amount of slots and very limited list of things that could be put into the slots with the clear rules that there could not be that and that and that and that. And it's it's rather short. I mean, it's just 3 slots on the vehicle, right?
Yeah,
it's gonna stay like that, the maximum amount of slots.
Yeah, I'm just curious, especially with the bounty and all that stuff going around.
But we had this discussion and we decided, proved to ourselves that these 2 stories could be decoupled.
Yeah.
So we can ship equipment because we are significantly more, or we believe so, again, before the sandbox, we believe that we are significantly more successful and we move in faster and more effective with sandbox version of equipment and with design of it and how we present it and all the pieces. So the moment we believe that one is coming really soon, like really soon.
The crew or the equipment?
The equipment.
Okay,
and
so
after that there will be crew.
Okay, so we're gonna get equipment rework fairly soon, and then after that the crew, which is
but
patches.
after it might not be soon. Let's put it this way.
Oh, so after equipment, it might not be soon.
Yes, after equipment, the crew might not be soon.
Right.
This is by far this is the hardest thing that I have worked on this project.
Right.
From perspective of how much legacy is in there, how much emotions are in there, how much effort people have invested, how much money people have invested at the end.
Yeah. I bet crew XP and stuff is also a pain to convert to a new model.
Yes, and we have special characters, right? We have
BIA
Sabaton,
crew, women,
Sabaton crew, right?
Yes,
Offspring crew. We have girls. We have Santa Claus. We have Cinderellas. We have lots and lots and stuff. We have masks for crew. People were investing books into this crew. So this is a hell of a feature. And it was hell like from the day one. This is super complicated. Again, the moment you're trying to address all the potential issues, and you have people who are very good at analyzing where potential issues are, it become very dry.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it because there's like no choices now with equipment. Almost there's like optics, rammer,
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
But you have this pattern. You basically follow it almost on all the vehicles, except a little bit the small variation on autoloader vehicles and the small variation on RT. That's it. Everything else.
Well, I'm glad that's going to change fairly quickly. That's cool.
I really want to believe that what we are doing is good. I for sure guarantee that you guys will experience that. And if you won't agree with us, then it's gonna die again.
Right, yeah, because you're gonna go to the sandbox. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's a lot of answers.
That's a lot of questions.
A lot of questions. I have a couple really quick ones, okay? Really quick ones.
Sure.
Okay,
let's put it to 3, okay?
3.
Because
Okay. It's okay. What maps did you ban personally?
None.
None. Okay. Do you play anonymized?
No. My account that I play, not work on, does not belong to any famous clan, including Wargaming. It's pretty average invisible job. Nobody knows what's the name of it.
Okay,
so I'm very happy. I don't need an anonymizer. I'm not worried about XVM showing me I'm superhero because I'm not.
Right. Fair enough. Do you play like all the other game modes? Do you turn them on, like Grand Battles, Encounter, all that shit?
I have everything on.
Okay, 4th question. I'm gonna cheat. Do you watch any World of Tanks yourself, like streams, YouTube?
Oh, a lot.
Okay. Have you heard about Circon? Just kidding.
Oh, come on. I met you live in Paris a year and a half ago, right?
Yeah.
So I watch mainly CIS bloggers. I watched the Quickie Baby for a while, then stopped. I don't even recall why exactly. Just did. I still subscribe to him anyway. Just don't really pay too much attention. I will subscribe to you then as well.
No, that's okay.
Really cool conversation. So I try to follow your content. And so probably a dozen of one Asian dude, a dozen of World of Tanks bloggers that I'm watching regularly.
Mm-hmm. And is there any other game you follow a lot? Just real quick.
Well. So a few. I follow Total War, Warhammer 2.
Good man.
Followed Total War Warhammer before that. I follow some historical things, not games, obviously, but like fencing, reconstruction, vehicle reconstruction as well.
Okay. Maybe. Do you know the guy that's rebuilding the T-62 tank in his backyard in the Netherlands? He has like a YouTube channel.
Not personally.
Okay, I'll link it. Every day they make a vlog from what they've done.
No, I know about that, but I mean, I do not know the guy.
Oh no, I'm just saying. Do you know of that channel? Because it's great.
So, all right. Yeah, it's rather nice to have this conversation, and I appreciate you. You were pushy enough, and the questions were interesting, and you were not letting me go, and I'm kind of happy with that. It was cool.
Well, it was my first time, so I hope it did okay.
You absolutely did okay. I really enjoyed this one, and I hope your viewers enjoyed that one too. Thank you guys.
I'll upload the whole thing to my YouTube as well. And I hope we can do this again sooner than later, so we can ask more questions. All right.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye. I'm gonna get a drink. Be right back. I asked pretty much most of the things I wanted to ask this time around. I know I probably missed 100 other subjects, but yeah, I think we got some pretty good answers. All in all, I might not agree with all the answers. Like, I think it's a bit of a shame that they're not nerfing the 279E or Chieftain. Likely not, maybe, but sounds like it's not gonna get nerfed. But yeah, I think the Soap Rock destructible wall thing was interesting. The EBR nerf is interesting. The British medium wheels at some point is cool. To me, the 6 months to rebalance a tank seems like a lot of months, but I also kind of understand it at the same time. If I put myself in the shoes of people that play this game a couple hours a week, then I kind of understand it. The RT rebalance, I mean, we did get a really firm answer on that tier 5 and 6 artillery's OP. That's a personal victory for me, boys. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was a good one, right? Right? Also, basically got them to admit that the derp gun thing is weird as shit, which is fun. I know it's a fairly minor thing, but it's interesting. Frontline answer was kind of funky, and I'm glad they're kind of thinking about changing their ways with it, so you can get both tanks a little bit more easily, maybe regrind or whatever. So that's cool, because that frontline thing was weird that you cannot regrind it. It's also very interesting that we basically got confirmation that the UK lights were so terrible that no one is playing them, which is leading to not enough data for them to be rebalanced sooner. That is interesting. Like, that is, I guess it's a weird way of saying it, but it's cool to hear from the horse's mouth that yes, they are too terrible, so there's no data, but the tier 10 is doing really well. But it's also because only the good players probably grinded it. So that is That is funky. What else did we go through? I am matchmaking. I mean, it's not, it's like I already almost knew the answer from before asking it, but I just gotta hammer it down, right? I guess I gotta keep asking about +1 -1 versus +2 -2. And also interesting that the matchmaking looks pretty much only towards queue times instead of the 357 shite, which was the case before, I think, but that's interesting. Again, like, not nerfing 279E Chieftain is kind of sucky. I still think ranked tech tree only is fucking great. I hope they're gonna do something like that. That seemed pretty doable. But yeah. Yeah, I think I got most of my questions in. I'm also glad that at least Andrey seems to be thinking the same way about PvE as I am, which, of course, personally, I think it's good that it's like a tool to use every once in a while, but it's very dangerous to make a mainstay. And it was even interesting for the people that like PvE, because he's basically saying that, like, if we're getting, well, theoretically, if they get experienced enough in PvE and they like where it's going and stuff, that it might be like a separate game and shit. I mean, that might be fucking 5-10 years away from now, but that's pretty fucking cool. Like, that would be a really cool way of doing it, I think. I hope it was good. I'm sure not everybody is satisfied, but fuck, dude.